Hey everyone, welcome to Outcast Solutions. I'm Hamza, and this is the show where we dig into digital marketing strategies. Everything from content and social media to Reddit reputation, AEO, and paid ads, plus the real stories of breakthrough and failure behind the tactics. We also cover honest takes on what actually works, what's hot right now, what's probably just fluff. Today I've got a guest I'm genuinely excited about, so let me introduce her. My guest is Oyinkansola, Oyin for short. And honestly, she's someone you'd want in your corner. Oyin is a content marketer, a storyteller who creates high ROI content for SaaS and fintech brands. You've probably heard of Circle, Dalil, Buffer, and the CFO Club. Beyond the client work, she teaches content marketing, mentors other building, other people in the field. So she's big on storytelling, sharing honest insights on both work and life. And when she's not doing any of that, you'll catch her talking about motherhood, or in her own words, just touching grass. Oyin, welcome to the show. Really glad to have you here.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. That was such a great intro. I feel like I'm so great.
All right, great. We're just glad that you're on our show, and we're gonna ask a couple questions about your career, about your experiences, successes, failures, your breakthrough moments. So I want to start off from something that I would personally want to ask you, because you're in the content marketing business and you have been doing this for quite some time. And I want to start with something I've noticed. You're a real advocate for strategy or volume, and you've also said in some articles that volume without strategy in content marketing is just plain noise, and more so in the world of AEO. So could you explain a little bit, educate us how that works and what you mean? Because today in ChatGPT's world, in AI's world, anyone can produce volumes of articles, and there's just so much fluff out there.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I always say that, if you create a lot of content without strategy, then it's really just noise, because there are so many blogs right now that are just sitting, right? They're gold mines sitting because there wasn't any proper strategic direction behind the creation, right? Every piece of content, in my opinion, should have certain elements, right? You should know
Okay.
what you're writing about, who you're writing for, why you're writing it, and how you plan to reach the intended audience, right? So there has to be a reason for you creating every piece of content, even if it's not an SEO piece, even if it's like to establish thought leadership, to announce something happening in your company or about your product, whatever it is, right? You need to have a reason. First of all, if you cannot defend the reason for writing it, then it shouldn't be written, right? And then how do you plan to get it to people? Is it going to be on your blog? And if it's on your blog, is it SEO? And if it's just SEO, are you going to repurpose it across different other platforms to amplify its reach, right? You have to really think about the end goal even before you start. So that's my perspective.
Beautiful. So talking about end goal. So in this in the AEO world, where there's basically machine that's kind of filtering what is noise and what is signal. So have your strategies changed over time? Because you've been doing this for quite some time. So what was the moment when you kind of shifted your strategy, or has this always been the same, even before ChatGPT came into play?
Okay, that's a very good question. For me, I would say that largely a lot of things have remained the same, because even when the trend of AEO and GEO and the EOs started, I always felt like a large volume, I always felt like a large part of AEO and GEO is still just traditional SEO. There's always been noise around SEO dying or SEO not being relevant again, even before AI came into the picture, and it was always debunked, right? So, but when Google released their report that they did a couple of weeks ago, talking about how GEO is literally just good SEO, I felt very validated, because to me, I believe that at least 60% of AEO GEO is basically good SEO, and that just solidified my thinking. I do agree that some things have changed, and I'm going to give you a few examples. It's actually something I've been talking about a lot recently. Yes. So, for example, AEO, leverages a lot of signals, right, to surface answers. And I feel like because it's like free form, giving everybody like potentially different responses or like structures for each search, it's very dynamic as compared to like SEO results that are more like static. And so that ability for it to be dynamic and pull from different sources every time
Yes.
makes it a little bit more volatile. But it also expands in terms of like the places where it pulls its sources.
Yeah.
So on SEO, you probably see the main sources being YouTube and blogs and
Yeah.
websites. But with GEO and AEO, you still see a lot more things like LinkedIn,
Oh yeah.
Reddit,
Yeah.
communities, even
Yeah.
lots of social media
That's right.
platforms, TikTok. So in that sense, it's a little bit different and more dynamic, but I would still say more than 50% is traditional SEO.
Beautiful. So I read a report recently where they're kind of like ranking even the comments or even the content that that is not necessarily the most upvoted content. So I'm curious to understand, what does ranking mean to you? So what exactly are you looking for? What do you optimize for generally?
Okay, so I optimize for a number of different things. Obviously, apart from the normal SEO optimization, I
Sure.
generally use some SEO optimization tools like Clearscope, Surfer, things like that. And a lot of those tools have also incorporated like an AEO score. So instead of just the SEO
Okay.
score, they have the AEO score, and you can
Yeah.
kind of optimize your piece for both. So that's
Sure.
something I do. And then on the research or keyword, the keyword optimization or research phase, I don't just only use traditional tools like Ahrefs or SEMrush anymore. I also use the tools that are leaning more toward the AI visibility. So
Sure.
tools like Scrunch AI, Peak AI, and then there are also a couple of new ones I've found recently
Sure.
like Content Monk and Peekaboo. So these tools kind of they help you like analyze your site, your current visibility on all the major AI engines, and then they kind of show you gaps, especially in comparison to your competitors, and like certain kind of prompts that you think your ICPs, your target audience, would
Oh
ideally
yeah.
search for. And they run these searches like multiple times a day or a week or a month and kind of like show you where you're at and where you need to be in comparison to your competitors. So that's kind of something I've added to my workflow for different clients, and it's helpful, yes.
Great. Um, you strike me as someone generally willing to unlearn things, and which I actually respect. And I'm always curious because the world of content has changed tremendously over the years. So, what's like, is there any piece of wisdom in content marketing that you've abandoned, that you previously used to go with? Something that's not irrelevant. Something more specific that we could educate our viewers, and also for my personal understanding, is there a tactic or strategy that you've completely abandoned or you think it's irrelevant now?
Okay, so I wouldn't say I've completely abandoned this, but I don't
Sure.
think it's as relevant as it used to be like in the earlier days of SEO and just
Sure.
internet content in general. And I would say it's this thing of the skyscraper technique. So basically, then you would get a keyword, and if you want to kind of rank or outrank some of the pieces on page one or the top three,
Right.
you kind of go and look at all the top 10 pieces, and then you try to like pick everything that they have done, plus the things that are like gaps, and then you just make your piece like this gigantic guide that covers everything, right? But the problem is when everybody started to go that approach, it started creating something called the copycat content, which is basically everybody's content start to look the same. And in a world of AI visibility, AI overviews, AI this, AI that, like it just doesn't help with standing out, and it doesn't also help with even sustaining any rankings that you gain with going that approach. And so what I've seen is it's not that it's completely dead or unimportant. It's just that you need to kind of also explore other strategies like finding your unique angle that is in relevant to your ICPs,
Sure.
and also like incorporating things like SME, subject matter expert input, and also like relevant examples or case studies, because I think those things are differentiators that are hard to replicate. Um, And so that for me would be the biggest thing, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right,
And
great.
then also not okay, there was also this obsession to a large extent of just optimizing for rankings, optimizing for traffic, and a lot of people would then target keywords that were very much top of the funnel, not really contributing to their bottom line.
Oh yeah.
And then they would have a lot of traffic but like nothing to show for it. But there are a lot of
Mm.
pieces, content pieces right now, if you go
Hmm.
and ask content teams, if
Yeah.
you go and ask revenue teams, that are not doing so well in terms of numbers, especially maybe the
Oh yeah.
search volume isn't that high, but like the intent is so strong that those pages are like their biggest money pages. So yeah,
Great.
those are the
Great.
two things for me.
Do you agree with the sentiment that traffic is dead? I mean, okay, there are different caveats to that, and I don't really like the phrasing of it because traffic's not dead. It was always a proxy, you know. It was. I mean, the real deal was influence all the time. But like, what's your take on that? Because you know, everyone's like they want traffic, and I keep telling my clients or my friends who are in the business, like, come on, the game has changed.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that traffic is dead. Like, continuing even from the points that I
Ah,
shared in the last answer,
sure.
traffic is not dead, right? But I would say that it has evolved, and just like the skyscraper technique, it's not as important as it used to seem, right? Because I wouldn't even say it was that important before, but it seemed very important then when it was the easiest thing to track
Yeah.
and the easiest thing to achieve, yeah. But like now we're in the an age of like zero click
Oh yeah.
searches, AI overviews are like at the top.
Oh yeah.
So for me, right, it's not even just about traffic. Number one, it's you need to pay attention to rankings because
Oh yeah.
sometimes, like, the search volume for a keyword can fluctuate seasonally throughout the year, for example. But so you might still be on position one, two, or three, and your traffic is fluctuating throughout the year. That has happened to me
Oh yeah.
with some pieces I wrote for a client a while back, the top
Mhm.
performing pieces. I started noticing that the traffic was very low, and I was like, is it that these pieces are dropping off page one? Are they dropping off page one to three? So I went to do the research, and I went into Ahrefs to search the top pages, and I saw that they were still very much in the first page, some of them even in the top three still. But because the search volume had changed
Yeah.
within that period that I was tracking it, it was also impacting the traffic, right? So it's not only about the traffic, you have to also pay attention to the rankings. If it is still ranking well, then you are not as low as you think you might be. So
Okay.
that's number one. And then number two is not all of us, as a writer, you might be in house and you have access to the Google Search Console, the Google Analytics, everything. But if you're a freelancer and you don't really have that much strategic input, you get the briefs or you get the topics and then you do the research and you write it. And maybe you can only check, data on Ahrefs or SEMrush. You don't really know what the impressions are like exactly. You don't know the clicks. You don't know where much of the traffic is coming from or where all the traffic is coming from. Like, a piece might be doing so well in terms of conversions because maybe much of the traffic is coming from a repurposed post that was made on LinkedIn or Twitter, and you don't know. You're just like, oh, it's not ranking, it's probably not doing well. But the person who can see Google Analytics, who can see Google Search Console, is the one that will tell you. That's why you will find some writers or some marketers, they will say, oh, they've been able to impact revenue by $2 million or by 500,000. And you're like, how? Well, how did you do that? And they'll be like, oh, their contact at the company told them that this particular page that they wrote is the highest converting page on the site at the moment. And I'm like, oh, okay. So if the person hadn't told you or you had not asked, you would not know. You would probably just only be reporting the
Oh
traffic
yeah.
numbers if you had some. Or if there were no traffic numbers in your head, you'd be like, oh, it's not performing that well. Right. So I would say that going deeper to access things like the actual impressions and click-through rates through tools like Google Search Console and Google Analytics will help you see some of the right metrics, including the
Oh
impressions,
yeah.
the clicks, and all of that,
All right.
beyond just traffic.
Great. Great. All right. So, and to close out this part, one of the things I find generally interesting about your profile is you write for a Gulf audience from Lagos and for American SaaS companies as well from Nigeria. So I wanted to know, like, what's been your experience, and first of all, to begin with, are they both American companies or like has there been a different experience, geographically dealing with different people, different brands? Like, yeah, tell us a bit about that.
Oh wow, okay, that's very interesting because I was still telling a friend, I think a couple of days ago or yesterday, I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I think I need to make a post about the fact that I worked with different companies across so
Oh yeah.
many continents.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very interesting, and it's not like it wasn't like an intentional thing. I feel like it
Okay.
just kind of happened as I was growing and expanding my freelance career. So it was obviously when I first got my first global remote role, I was actively trying to get it. Some of my friends had already gotten jobs that relocated them or that were global remote and were also decent. So like I already had some idea of how to go about it. And so when I got that first role, it really opened my mind to a lot of different possibilities, and it was with a global
Okay.
remote content agency in the US. So when I got that job, because it was an agency, I got to work with a number of different clients, right? Most of them were based in, I think, the US and probably Canada. I think there was another one in India. So,
Okay.
the way agencies work global remotely, they have like clients also across different continents or countries. And so that kind of became my experience while I was at that agency. And so after my time at the agency ended, um, I found it a little bit hard getting in a new full time role. So whilst I was waiting, that's kind of how I now decided to like really double down on freelancing. So plus my networks from that company and me just trying to be more active on LinkedIn and be open about the fact that I was looking for work, I just started to get more connections, right? And I was like, okay, how can I make this freelance career move? Like I don't want to expect work to come to me. How can I influence it? And
Okay.
then that was why I started to like double down on my network and joining communities and being vocal about when I was, open to work. And that kind of became what my career is now.
Oh yeah. So like speaking about communities, how's been the networking in the communities? What's your favorite community? And you can, if you choose not to name them for whatever reason, that's completely fine. We're okay with that. But like generally, because not everyone. I personally think I've been part of some communities as well, and they're pretty underrated. You get networks. Sometimes you even get leads, but the best part is like the engagement that people supporting each other. So yeah, what's been your experience in communities, and are they niche communities? Are they B2B communities? What sort of communities are you part of in general?
Okay, so I mean, my experience with communities has been largely positive. When
Okay.
I first started joining communities was a couple of years ago, and most of the communities were the free ones.
Yeah.
But even, the ones that are no longer free, some of them were free as at the time I had joined them. And I
Yeah.
remember one in particular, Superpath, was kind of a little bit even affiliated to the agency that I had started working at in 2021. So like it was easy for me to find them, and it used to be free, but now it's paid, and I think that the value is still very much there.
Oh.
After it became paid, I left for a while, but then I was like, let me try it again this year, and I joined, and it has been very much worth it. I think of all the communities that I've been in since I've been joining communities, that is one community where I've gotten the most leads and even conversions. Like I've actually gotten clients from the community. And it's not because like the clients came to me just because I was on the community. Like I'm a very active person. I believe
Oh
in
yeah.
the grind. Yeah. So I always pay attention to the jobs and gigs channel. Whenever I see anything that looks like a good fit for me, I tailor my pitch. Like if the person says, "Oh, DM with XYZ," I'll DM them, and then if it goes from there, great. If it doesn't go from them, like maybe it's not a good fit, then it's also great. I feel like the most important thing in communities is like try to give more than you get. Don't just be
Oh yeah.
obsessed with like, oh, I want to get clients from here. I want to get connections from here. No, also be a valuable person.
Yeah.
This year, so far, I've joined about five paid communities actually, but I ended up leaving one because I saw that it wasn't a good fit for me. So that is also something that you need to think about. But within those communities, I try to contribute within threads where I feel like I have insights or expertise to give. And when I also have challenges, I go in there and I ask my questions, right? So I've gotten writing clients from the communities, and even more recently, I got a sponsor for my newsletter, the Profitable Content Marketer, from one of the communities. So there's a lot of value there, and the good thing is, if you do eventually close a client from there as a freelancer or even someone who's looking for a full-time role, a lot of the times, like once you get paid like once or twice, if at all, you've already made back all your investment on a community that was paid. And if it wasn't paid, then you haven't even lost anything. I recently became a channel owner, for example, in one of the communities I joined, and it has been so
Wow.
interesting just being more useful and adding more value to the community. So it's not just about getting, like,
Oh
you just
yeah,
have to give.
absolutely.
Yes, and that has
100%.
also
Yeah.
helped me, yeah, with working across continents, right? Because then I get to interact with so many people. If I'm in doubt about something, I can ask somebody else who has more knowledge about that location.
Oh yeah. Great. 100% I agree with that. So I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot right now because I had this question. I usually ask this with all content marketers in my private conversations. The way things are going and the way those changes are happening. So if you had to bet, what does a content marketer's job actually look like 5 years from now? And obviously nobody knows the future. We're not. I mean, this is something we don't have knowledge of, but still, like, if you had to place a bet, or if you had to sort of, make a sort of forecast based on the current trends and based on how everything's going, will that job even exist in the next 5 years? What are we looking at? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking. I'm trying to think about the question. Okay, well, I've actually thought about this, in passing a couple of
Yeah. Yeah.
times. And I feel like my perspective still remains pretty much the same, in the sense I feel like the industry is going to remain, definitely. I think that the jobs are going to remain. It's just, it's not the AI or the automations that are going to take over jobs, I think. I think it's the people who know how to use it
Yeah.
as a force multiplier, the people who know how to, like, tame it or direct it, or you know give it the right prompts, so to speak. I do think that the more important skill is going to be strategic thinking, which is what I've always been advocating for anyway, right? You need to think about the direction that you're trying to take every piece and what you're trying to achieve with it, like what's the bottom line. And I think it's just going to become more important. There are also some new roles that would become that would would I say arise? Yes, that would arise. So things like the content engineer, for example, that is
Nice.
already a very, like, big thing. There are also jobs
Yeah.
like AEO managers and things like that. Those jobs are going to become more and more as we go
Yeah.
along, and I really look forward to it, because at the end of the day, whether I look forward to it or not, it's going to happen, right? And my mindset or my approach to it really matters. So
All
yeah.
right. All right, great. For the last stretch, I want to talk about something bigger than tactics and strategies, and I'll hand this one to you. What I really found genuinely inspiring is that you sustain a career while carrying a full life outside of it. And I would like to talk about how those things live together, what motherhood has taught you about your work, and your evolution as a person. I'm pretty sure there's got to be so many lessons you got out of that. If you'd want to talk about those aspects. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So the thing is, the way I think about parenthood, marriage, unless in situations where, like, somebody was under duress or, like, doing things against their own will, which I really empathize with. But when you make choices like that for yourself, you already know that it's going to come with changes, right? And I'm somebody who became self-aware relatively early, and I kind of knew the things I wanted and didn't want.
Okay.
And so I already came to the conclusion that I want to be somebody who has a very full life, right, within and outside of work, and find a way to balance that. And obviously, that boils down to a lot of factors, your own discipline as a person, and who you choose as a life partner, how you space out your childbearing days, if you're able to control all of that. But, like, once the responsibility actually comes, like, you should own it. Everybody's going to be happy for you probably when you have a child, but nobody's going to live with you,
Oh
if
yeah.
at all, maybe just one or two people. You are the one with the responsibility, and you need to
Oh
be able
yeah.
to, like, plan your time, your mind, and your resources to kind of accommodate that. For me, I
Yeah.
believe that once you have a child, for example, that's the most important person to you, to your spouse, right? So that should, like, be at the top of your priority list. Then obviously you have your family and then your work, which probably gives you some sort of fulfillment. And it now boils down to time management, number one, and then, being open to asking for help and receiving help. And also, if you have the resources, to kind of outsource some of the things that take up your time, so that you can try to balance things out. For example, I have people that help me with childcare and cleaning a couple of times a week. I also have my family around. Sometimes if I'm overwhelmed, I just go there. And then my partner is also very supportive. We both work from home. So that's kind of my own setup. And I talked about it briefly in a buffer article that I can share later on. But yeah, it's just about that, you have to own your choices and try to be a responsible adult, the same way someone was responsible for you when you were a child.
Oh, yeah. All right, so Oyin, this has been fantastic. Before we go, where can people find you and what are you working on right now that you'd want others to check out?
Okay, I feel like where I'm really quite active is on LinkedIn. My name is Oyinkansola Edem or Oyinkansola Oyinka Edem on there, so you can find me. I have been exploring creating content on other platforms like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, but it hasn't been as smooth. But I would say that LinkedIn is the most common one or the most prominent one for now. And then I have a newsletter as well on Substack called The Profitable Content Marketer. Yes. And it's basically I share content resources, job opportunities, guides and things like that for other people who are also looking to come up. So those are the two main things I think I want to plug people to.
Thank you so much for making the time. This was exactly the kind of honest conversation I was hoping for. And to everyone listening, thanks for being here. This has been Outcast Solutions. I'm Hamza, and we'll catch you with another guest in another episode. So thank you, Oyin. We'll definitely have you in more sessions down the line. Thank you. Thanks
yes,
again.
I hope so. Is it okay if I ask you something?
Sure, absolutely, great. Go ahead.
Okay, do you have, if you could go back in time to like 18-year-old you, what would you tell him? What advice would you give him?
Okay, I have an engineering background, believe it or not. And I am a mechanical engineer as per my degree. But I studied engineering, but I never pursued engineering. So the first thing I would do is I would probably not go for an engineering degree because now I know what's really my mode, what really clicks with me, and the kind of things that I'm interested. 17, 18-year-old kid usually doesn't make the smartest choices. I mean, obviously you have limited work experience and the worldview that you have. You sort of make decisions based off that. So first, I would definitely not go for a mechanical engineering degree, though I don't regret it. I learned a bunch of things that are translated to other fields for sure. But I would probably pursue a business degree if I have to pursue any degree at all. That's one. Number two, I would start my freelance work or my my agency right from then. I wouldn't wait up till now. Like right now I'm 33, so I wouldn't wait this long to start things.
What? 33 is young.
Oh, really? So what age were you thinking I was off?
No, like I'm saying, like you're saying 33, like you make it sound like your life is halfway done. You still have so many years ahead of you. You have more years ahead than you have behind you.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the stats, maybe. So, these are sort of things, choices I would make different. And if I were to ask you those questions again, what would an 18-year-old Oyin do differently than she, based on your life experience and everything?
Okay, I mean, I graduated uni very early. I was actually 18 when I finished uni.
Wow.
But I also, because I was so young, I was kind of very much naive. And I would say, like, to an extent, I said that I became self-aware very early, which is true, but there were still a lot of things that I was oblivious to, even about myself, not just about other people. And I think it also gave me a kind of, the upside was I was very confident in myself, a lot of things which helped. But then the downside was that I didn't learn quite as much as I think I should have. Like, I feel like I should have really doubled down on upskilling. I did upskill, to be honest, because look at my career now, right? But I feel like if I had really, like, maybe 5 or 10x to my input then, like, I would probably be 5 or 10x in my productivity now. Because the older you get, like, there's some things that you probably were able to do a couple of years before that you can no longer do now. So yeah, if you don't have as much responsibility now, please do everything that you want to do. Try everything, reinvent yourself a billion times.
All right. Yeah, 100% agree. Guys, do it. Don't wait for the perfect time. This is the time. This is the time you got to make that jump. Anyway, thank you, Oyen, for taking the time. It was really an honor to have you here. We'll talk again.
All right then.
All right.
Bye.